Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Inside Selections. The date is Sunday, February 22nd, 2026, and today we're going to be talking about this update out of the Texas Senate primary elections and how Democrats are shaping up to look very, and I mean very good going into this, of course, Senate election in the state of Texas. Now, this video will be about both the Senate election as a whole and James Talarico specifically, and why James Talarico is looking very good ahead of this election, of course. So let's just get straight into it. This is on day 4 of early voting in the state of Texas. As you most likely know, the current the current primary elections for the Texas Senate and House or elections for the 2026 midterms are happening right now, the early vote. This is on day 4 as the time of recording this video. There are 14 days of early voting, followed by election day voting. And Democrats are leading, not percentage-wise, but in raw votes in this early vote primary, by roughly 50,000 votes. Yes, Democrats are leading in raw votes in Texas by 50,000. And this is not a normal thing. Republicans usually win the early vote by millions of votes. Not millions, but in 2022 and 2024, they won it by roughly a million votes. And Democrats are leading by about 50,000. And why this is good for James Talarico specifically, or a point that is good for James Talarico specifically, is the racial demographics of the turnout. As you most likely know, maybe not, James Talarico is leading amongst white voters, while Jasmine Crockett is leading amongst black voters. And James Talarico, this news is very good for James Talarico because the estimated share of the electorate for the Democratic primary is shaping up to be good for, of course, James Talarico. The estimated black turnout for this primary is 13%. Whereas in 2024, it was 23% of black voters in this Democratic primary in the Democratic elections. In 2020, it was Biden got 21%. But however, in this early vote primary so far, the only roughly 13% are black voters, which is most likely a very good sign for James Talarico to win this Democratic primary to face up against whoever the Republican nominee is, of course. And there's more news to just this. Democrats as a whole are looking very good ahead of this primary and Senate election as a whole, of course. The Democrats are leading in this primary by large swaths of votes, where at the same time, Republicans are doing worse. This is not just amongst the Democratic primary, this is also the Republican primary. Red counties are seeing GOP Republican turnout decrease from 2024, while Democratic turnout is skyrocketing. So yes, you can make an argument that, oh, well, they're just going to turn out on election day, or they're going to turn out later in the early vote. You could be right. You could be. I'm not saying that that's not going to happen. I'm saying that the news that we have right now is looking extremely good for the Democratic primary, for the Democratic Party, sorry. And this is not just one day of early voting. This is day 4, and Democrats are only expanding their lead. I don't have the data from every single day, but we do have it from day 3. Democrats only led by roughly 25,000 votes. And of course, now they lead by 50,000. When you watch this video, you can go and look up the results, and I guarantee you they're going to be leading by more than that 50,000. And I know this specific example is a very, very small sample. This is not something to base the entire election off of, but I just find this very interesting and how this could actually look extremely good, not for the Democratic primary, but for the Democratic Party ahead of the actual 2026 election, the general election, is this specific county. Now, of course, this is a very small sample. This is literally about roughly 50 people, but I just find this interesting. And Kamala Harris in Kennedy County in Texas got 41 votes. Of course, small county, small turnout, etc. Very small electorate. But as of right now, in the early vote for the Democratic primary for a Senate election in a midterm is higher on day 4, I may add, of 14, is higher. The raw vote turnout is higher than the general election for the 2024 presidential election on the Democratic side. I don't know exactly what this could mean ahead of this Senate election in 2026, but what I do know is that this is not looking good for the Republican Party. If Democrats are expanding on their raw vote total day 4 into the early vote of a Senate primary of a midterm compared to the presidential general election, that is a very good signal for the Democratic Party. And another point I want to talk about is Tarrant County. Tarrant County is a county in Texas, of course. It is a county that went to the Republican Party by 6 points in 2024. I believe 5 points in 2024. Sorry. Tarrant County, it went to Donald Trump, and J.D. Vance got 52% of the vote. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz got 46.5% of the vote. However, in this early vote so far, in the raw numbers, Democrats are leading the early vote against Republicans by 30 points. That's right, 30 points in a district that Republicans won handily in 2024. And this might sound familiar. Tarrant County, that might ring a bell. And if it does, that's because there was an election here roughly a month ago. If you remember the Texas State Senate election where the Democrat candidate Taylor Ramette overperformed and won against a Republican candidate by 14 points in a district that Donald Trump won by 18, my bad. Now, yes, this is not the exact same thing as Tarrant County as a whole. This Senate district is part of Tarrant County. However, how do I put this? This Senate district is part of Tarrant County, but Tarrant County is not this Senate district. Tarrant County is the entire square of the Senate district. It's kind of hard to show you here, but this entire southern suburbs, which are Democratic, does not include Texas's 9th Senate district, but they are in Tarrant County. Tarrant County, of course, went to the Republican Party by 18 points, whereas this Senate district went to the Republican Party by 18 points, whereas Tarrant County as a whole went to the Republican Party by 5 points. But either way, the point still stands. If Democrats are overperforming by 30 points in a special election, then 1 month later are still overperforming by 30 points, I do not believe that is a coincidence. I think that is a sign of what is to come in 2026. Because a large part of Tarrant County, the reason this is so important is because Tarrant County is a majority Hispanic population. Maybe not majority Hispanic. I'm actually not sure. It has a very high Hispanic population. And Hispanic voters shifted to the right by large margins in 2024. I believe Kamala Harris only won Hispanic voters by 3 points in 2024 after Biden won them by roughly 15 and Clinton by roughly 20. I don't know the exact numbers, but Hispanic voters shifted to the right in very large swaths in 2024. And as we're seeing in elections, in polls, in special elections, in early votes, in raw votes, Democrats are winning these counties by large, huge numbers. And that should scare Republicans going into this midterm because this is Texas. This is a state that should, in theory, favor the Republican Party overwhelmingly. But what we're seeing right now is that it is not favoring the Republican Party. It is favoring the Democratic Party. And to get back onto track of the Democratic primary, ever since this early vote has started, the Democratic Party, specifically James Talarico, has done very good. His numbers in his chance to win has skyrocketed. He has a roughly 78% chance to win this election based on Polymarket, the primary election. I'm sorry. The general election, he has roughly a 34% chance to win. Now, yes, that is not amazing for the Democratic Party, but a 34% chance to win the state of Texas for the first time in over 3 decades is a very good number for Democrats to be looking into still 8 months away from the midterms. I mean, look, just a little. We'll look at the new year. At New Year's, Democrats had a 26% chance of winning this election. Now they're at 34. Give that 8 more months, there's a chance that the odds flip. There's a chance that if James Talarico wins this election, who arguably has the best chance against the Republicans in this election, there is a very solid chance that he could win this election, of course. And to make matters worse for the Republican Party, the same thing is happening for Ken Paxton. Ken Paxton is the far-right candidate who is primarying incumbent Senator John Cornyn, and ever since this early vote has began, his odds at winning have absolutely skyrocketed. He went from roughly a 50% chance of winning to now having an 83% chance of winning, based on Polymarket, of course. And Ken Paxton is the candidate who can lose to Democrats in the general election, who can be the first Republican to lose to a Democrat statewide in Texas in over 3 decades. Against Ken Paxton versus James Talarico could actually win this election, as polls say. Polls say that Ken Paxton is leading by 2, that Ken Paxton is tied, that he's only leading by 3, that he's only leading by 1. In a state that Donald Trump won by 14 points in 2024. And I know I'm kind of getting off track, but the main point is that Democrats are looking extremely good ahead of this Senate election, specifically from the eyes of the primary ballot vote in through this election, of course. And just one more thing I want to talk about here real quick is that what this map could look like if Democrats win Texas. If Democrats win Texas, I'm not saying this is going to happen. This is not my prediction. But if Democrats are winning Texas in 2026, if Democrats' numbers hold up, if they continue leading Republicans in raw vote totals, if Texas flips blue, Michigan's going to flip blue. If Texas flips blue, Georgia's going to stay blue. Michigan's going to stay blue. North Carolina is going to flip blue. Maine is going to flip blue. If Texas goes blue, Alaska is most likely going to follow suit. Same thing with Ohio, arguably. And that would put Democrats at a Senate majority, a comfortable Senate majority, when nobody thought they could ever have a chance of winning the Senate for years. And heck, Iowa could flip blue. Nebraska could flip to Dan Osborne, the independent. This map may seem crazy, and yes, it is crazy, but we are living in crazy times. We are living in the Trump administration. We are living in a reality where Democrats are leading Republicans in Texas by 50,000 votes in raw votes. Okay, I know I'm getting sidetracked, but the point is that this news is very good for the Democratic Party. This news is very good for James Talarico. If this is very good news if you're a James Talarico supporter. This is very good news for Democrats in Texas as a whole. Just the whole everything. This election in Texas is shaping up to be a very good one for the Democratic Party ahead of the 2026 midterms. Okay, I know I've been yapping for too long, but what are your thoughts on this news? I encourage you to comment your thoughts on this news. If you enjoyed this video, I encourage you to like this video, to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I upload election news every single day. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you can see when that happens. And yeah, I hope you have a great day.